Welcome to Drinks in the Library, the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they are required. I'm your librarian host, Gigi Howard, and each episode I'll be interviewing a guest about a much-loved book that we will be pairing with a drink for you to enjoy along with us or consider for your next book club meetup. As always, stay curious and support your local library. Raise your wands, Libration Nation. This week's book is Carry On by Rowell, a magical mage's story about Simon Snow, who is the worst chosen one ever, according to his roommate and nemesis, Baz. Carry On is the first book in a trilogy and is a ghost story, a love story, and a mystery. It has just as much kissing and talking as you'd expect from a Rowell story, but far, far more monsters. My guest this week is Rachel, Yorkshire. She lives in Richmond with her wife, Marissa, and their very spoiled dog. She and her wife both post their bookish endeavors and reviews over on their Bookstagram at Lesby Readers, and they would love for you to give them a follow. If she's not reading, Rachel is probably daydreaming, laughing with friends, or bothering her dog. In this story, Simon is known for devouring sour cherry scones, so our drink pays homage to that with a Tart Cherry mocktail. Before we get started, if you have not already, please like or review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Doing that really helps me a lot. Continue to grow this show. So if you just want to show me some support and love, that is the best way to do that. All right, let's get started with Carry On. I feel so comfortable with you. I'm just
Ditto.
Yapping. Yeah.
Ditto. I had a feeling that we would vibe.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yes.
So glad.
Yeah.
So glad. Thank you so much for being with me here tonight. I'm excited to talk to you about Carry On, which is one of your favorite books.
I'm so excited to be here.
Well, good. And so tell us about it a little bit. So I always ask, when did you read this book? And who were you at that time?
Yeah, Carry On is a novel by Rowell, and I first was introduced to it by reading sort of the prequel, I don't know what we want to call that, but a prequel, Fangirl. And in that time in my life, it was 2019, I was living with my now wife in South Carolina, and I was very into fan fiction. I was very into reading and writing fan fiction.
Yeah.
And she found this book called Fangirl.
Yeah.
In which the main character is a first-year college student in Nebraska who writes fan fiction about the Simon Snow character, which is the main character of Carry On. Whenever I explain the book to people, I'm like, wait, just stay with me. The character of Simon Snow in the book of Fangirl is a Harry Potter-esque world, and she writes fan fiction about him. So then Rowell, after she published Fangirl, decided, actually, I want to take on the story of Simon Snow and make it my own. So she wrote a trilogy that starts with Carry On about this chosen one story of Simon Snow in the world of mages. And when I was first reading it, I was just immediately hooked, immediately sucked in. It's everything I wanted in a book. Yeah.
And okay, so when we enter Simon Snow's world, who is he? Pull us into that. So it starts with the fangirl. Now we're into the
We're into the fiction.
Yeah.
We're into the fiction part of the fan fiction. So when we enter Carry On, Simon is a student at Watford, which is a school for mages. And that's the magical world, their school. And what's interesting about Carry On is you think of a Harry Potter book where it goes from year 1 to year 7.
Yeah.
This starts on his very last year. It's his 8th year at Watford. He has been anointed as this chosen one. But he was an orphan. He didn't know who his parents were. And in this series, as opposed to Harry Potter, where they talk about purebloods and half-bloods and things like that, mages only have mage children. And non-magical parents don't have magical children. So Simon Snow is an orphan, and he has been prophesized to be the person who will save the magical realm.
Okay.
And there is a character a big bad villain called the Insidious Humdrum. And he is ripping holes in the magical firmament, I believe they call it.
Firmament?
Firmament? Okay, maybe that's the wrong word. The magical world.
Okay.
He's tearing holes in it and leaving dead spots where magic can no longer exist. And everyone thinks that Simon Snow is the one who's going to save them and beat the Insidious Humdrum. And theme of Carry On is that he's the worst chosen one to ever be. He's not very good at magic. He's not very in control of his own emotions. He explodes and goes off, and so much power erupts from him, but he doesn't know how to control it. He's very bad at spells. He's the worst chosen one ever. So he and his friends and his enemies have to band together to try and solve this problem of the Insidious Humdrum.
Okay. How did they decide that he was the chosen one?
There was a prophecy within the world of mages that foretold his coming. And what I love about Rainbow Rowell's take on this Chosen One series is that it's been done so many times, right? Skywalker is the chosen one. Harry Potter is the chosen one. And whatever that means. And she sort of looks that in the face and says, what does that really mean? Because they just decided that Simon Snow was the chosen one. And in later books, obviously no spoilers, but in later books, they address that. Yeah. And other people come forward and say, no, I'm the chosen one. I'm the chosen one. So she really she has talked about this in interviews, that she didn't write it to be like Harry Potter or like Lord of the Rings or anything like that. She wrote it as a chosen one story. And then there's the gay part, which is...
Okay. Let's dive in.
That is probably my favorite part of it, is that I love magical stories. I love magical fiction. But the component of this that makes it so fun for me as a gay person is that the main character is gay. And when you think about, I just listened to your Hermione episode.
Yeah.
And that was fan fiction about Draco and Hermione. And they mentioned Drarry, which is Draco and Harry, and that idea that the enemies in the story were really meant to be together. That's what Rainbow Rowell has taken here and done. Okay. So there's a character, Simon Snow is the main character, and his enemy, his name is Baz. And they have been roommates since their first year. And they hate each other. They cannot stand each other. They've tried to kill each other a few times.
Classic.
Yes. And as the story goes on, that changes. And we actually learn that Baz has been in love with Simon Snow for 8 years. And yeah, the only way he could protect his heart was to be really mean to him.
Oh.
Yeah. So that is a component that I love about it. That it's gay fiction as well as magical.
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to expand on other things, because she unwraps the chosen one dynamic. Are there other elements of this story that she twists that are different?
Absolutely, yeah. It is a trilogy, so there's Carry On, which is the first one. Wayward Son is the second one, where the crew goes to America for a road trip. Which is so funny. It's like that very special episode. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then Anyway the Wind Blows is the final one. And throughout those, there are a lot of turning things on their head. And she has even said she likes that her characters are unexpected. There's a character named Agatha who has been Simon's girlfriend since he was young. And she's the most beautiful witch in the world.
Good for her.
You go, girl. So yeah, Rainbow Rowell writes these characters, and one of them is Agatha, who was Simon Snow's girlfriend from the time he was young, and she is the most beautiful magician at Watford, and everyone knows it. And her story arc, I'm not going to spoil, but it goes even into the third book. It's very interesting. The reason they go to America is to save Agatha from something. Okay. And then when they return for the third book, she has a really interesting, what you wouldn't expect of her and her character. I like that Rainbow Rowell takes what you would assume the trope is for this type of book and tries to change it. Yeah.
Is Agatha, would you compare her to like the Hermione character?
No, the Hermione character would be Penny.
Oh, okay.
Penny is Simon Snow's best friend. She is, I love the character of Penny. She's brilliant. She's very bossy. She keeps Simon safe. She is the brains of the operation for sure. And then if we're comparing HP characters, the Draco Malfoy would be Baz.
Okay.
Yeah. And he is a very wealthy, very posh magician. He comes from a very posh magician family, because there's a lot of those family dynamics in the book about who's the right kind of family and who's not. And again, he is just so madly in love with Simon Snow.
Yeah.
And he's never been able to say it.
Express it. And then so when they get together, is Agatha devastated?
It's so funny because Agatha is, you know what? That makes sense. I really love, you know what I love about the way Rainbow Rowell writes this gay storyline is that it's so realistic, because I'm going to pull from my own life here.
Okay.
But so I didn't come out till I was 27 publicly. Okay. And a lot of people after I came out said, you had to know. You knew, right? You must have known and just not said anything. And the answer is no, I really didn't know.
Okay.
And so when Simon and Baz finally get together in the book, there's a lot of examination of why didn't you know that you had these feelings for Baz?
Yeah.
There's a lot of examination of Simon questioning himself. What does this mean?
Okay.
Am I gay? Am I just in love with this person? I really liked the fact that she's made it seem like when people would ask him, how did you not know? And he was like, I was just trying to save the world. Like, I was trying to live my life and survive and live, stay alive. And I didn't have time to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I was dating Agatha.
Yeah.
Because it was what was expected of me.
Okay.
I'm the chosen one. She's the most beautiful person at Watford. Of course we're meant to be together.
Yeah.
Of course I'm meant to spend every Christmas with her posh family. And he just didn't think about it. He said, I just do what I have to do. And yeah, I just really like that component of it.
I'm glad you brought that, because when you first brought up the fact that it is a gay story, and I think in my head my first question was like, and did that feel truthful to you?
Yes, absolutely. I read this after I obviously had come out. My now wife was my girlfriend at the time who bought it for me, but I hadn't been out for very long when I read it for the first time. I'd only been out for about 2 years, and it really opened the floodgates to gay fiction for me and finding myself in gay books and characters.
Yeah.
I think it rings true, but I'm just obsessed with the book. So maybe, again, every person is different. Every story is different. Every journey for gay people is different. And someone might read this and say, oh, that's kind of schmaltzy. That's cheesy. That's not what I identify with. But I really enjoy it.
Yeah. And I hope you don't mind me like digging in a little
Not
bit
at
here,
all.
because part of the reason I do this is because I do think it's really important for people to see themselves in stories. And so following your story arc a little bit, what has that experience been like? What are some other characters that sort of resonate with you and give you seeing yourself?
Absolutely. No, I don't mind you digging in at all. One of the components of my love for this is honestly a replacement for Harry Potter.
Okay.
Because, as we all know,
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling has some very interesting opinions, and she's very loud about her anti-trans rhetoric.
Yeah.
And that feels really hurtful for a lot of gay people who grew up with Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Who really saw themselves in the characters. Even though there weren't any explicit gay characters in the book, so many, especially millennials, so many queer millennials grew up with Harry Potter and ride or die. So when J.K. Rowling began to verbalize all of this hatred, it felt like a big betrayal for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people were really heartbroken. So then that leaves this space, right? Oh, I found myself in this magical world, because it's escapism, right? It's, oh, I could go to a world where I'm accepted. I'm different from everyone on this earth, but there's a place for me somewhere. Yeah. And that was gone suddenly for a lot of people. I really enjoyed this. It's not as detailed as Harry Potter. It's, you get thrown in on the last year. You don't get their growing up. You don't get their schooling. But I was so hungry for something that showed like gay and magical and all of that. Definitely appreciate that about this, as it's a new, more inclusive magical fiction. Yeah.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Do you, and I might edit this part out, but do you remember like the Harry Potter Alliance? Maybe that was like a library thing, but it was, I always think about it now because I would see them at like library conferences, and
Was it like LGBT?
It was very, LGBT, and it was merging books and stories and Harry Potter, and it's so perfect for us.
Absolutely.
And then I've thought about it so often, and I probably need to look up and see if it's still around at all. But
I think that a lot of people were left heartbroken. I think a lot of people still refused to give it up because of their attachment to it. It is unfair that they would have to, because I don't begrudge anyone for wanting to still read it or explore it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's again, you can cut this out if you want, my sort of compass that I go by. I try not to contribute any more to her financially.
Yeah.
I love consuming fan-made things.
Mm-hmm.
I think art and fan fiction and things like that are really cool ways to still feel connected to it. Yeah, but no, I didn't know about but that makes complete sense.
Yeah. I like I said, I'll have to look up and see what they're up to now or anything. But yet, you are having a sip of our drink this evening. And I love it. And you also brought and made our drink. So do you want to tell us about it and how it fits into the book?
Absolutely. So I have made a sour cherry mocktail for the two of us. It's pretty good.
It's fresh. It's light.
Fresh, yeah.
As we're diving into spring.
Yes. And the reason that I brought it is that in the book, Simon Snow at Watford is his home.
Yeah.
In a way that nowhere else has ever felt like home. And in the, I don't know what you would call, I guess the cafeteria, I don't know what, dining hall. In the dining hall, they have these sour cherry scones that he gorges himself with every time he comes back, because he's lost so much weight and he lives in an orphanage in the summer.
Yeah.
And so he comes back and he gorges himself on these sour cherry scones. And I've read that Rainbow Rowell has posted that a lot of Carry On fans will pay tribute to the sour cherry scones in some way. So I wanted to pay tribute to the sour cherry scones in our drink. And so we've got some tart cherry juice and lime juice and simple syrup. And yeah, we did mocktail, but you can easily add vodka or gin, and it's pretty delicious.
It is. And it's beautiful red color. So yeah, and I thank you so much. I love that it like ties it all together.
Yeah, of course.
And it's very tasty. I don't usually like cherry, to be honest with you, but
oh, really?
I'm loving it.
I love that. Also, apparently, the TikTok wellness girlies say that tart cherry juice is great for sleep. So we'll see.
I'll message you tomorrow.
Let me know if you fall asleep instantly tonight.
I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and he's going to be like, everything looks great.
You're so refreshed.
Yeah, there you go. And then you were talking about how the story kind of starts off and he's older. And I'd loved how first he's like reflecting on, and then we killed this dragon, and then I did this, and it's almost like a recap for everything. And he's reflecting on it. I thought that was such an interesting way to start it.
That was one of the, I don't know how to describe it, but it's one of the things I love best about it is that you have to fill in the gaps for this world. You are being dropped in. It's already happening.
Yeah.
You're joining the program already in session. And it is why I recommend that people read Fangirl first. You don't have to. They are completely separate stories. You will understand Carry On without reading Fangirl. But the premise of Fangirl is that the main character, her name is Kath, and she's a freshman in college, and she is obsessed with the series in that book is called Simon Snow and the World of Mages. And it is an 8-book series, and she writes fan fiction about it. And within Fangirl itself, Rainbow Rowell will write passages from Kath's fan fiction. And so there will be scenes in Fangirl from the years of schooling that we didn't see in Carry On.
How cool.
It's so cool. They'll talk about Baz being up on the tower in the moonlight, or them dancing up there, and they'll talk about them defeating a monster in a nursery that we don't ever see or hear about again. And it gives you these little snippets of a world that I feel like it just made my imagination just soar with trying to put together that information.
Yeah. I mean, it was just it was a very fun way to start it off a little bit. And I wanted to ask you about the magic itself in the book.
Yeah,
like,
that's another cool part that I just love Rainbow Rowell. I think she's so cool.
Yeah.
So the magic in the World of Mages is language based. So the idea is that non-magical people have phrases, they have turns of phrases that have been tried and true and said over and over. And the idea in the World of Mages is that a phrase that is said consistently and repeatedly gives it more power.
Okay.
So there's these really cool passages where people will talk about, I'm trying to come up with a new spell, and they'll use a pop song, and Penny, who's the smartest girl, she'll say that might not have staying power, because if you reference a pop song from the 70s, not as many people are going to understand it these days. And so it's this very interesting, it's very literal in that in the second book, when they're in America, there's large portions of the United States that don't have a large population of speakers, of people, and so they're dead spaces for magic, because you have to have words and language to make magic work. And I think that's so cool. It's not wand based, it's language based.
Yeah.
So they use clean as a whistle for a spell, and that cleans you, and it's they actually reference, it's so funny because Baz, he's very posh and he's very don't clean as a whistle me. He's like, you know how dirty whistles are? And Penny's, it's the best we can do. So it's very literal. It's clean as a whistle will get some dirt off of you. But and then when they're in America, this again in the second book, when they're in America, poor Baz is trying to use all these spells, and they're all British vernacular. So they don't work, because no one in America would know what those were. It's just very fascinating. I just love the way her mind works.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. And to think about, like, that it would go in and out of fashion to say something. I was thinking about, my best friend always says, it's silly, shut the front door.
Yes.
So would that be a spell to, like, actually shut a door?
Yes, Penny would say that in the presence of a Southern woman, and the door would slam. Or because of the context of it. Now, because of the context of it, it could silence someone. Because when you say it, you're saying, don't shut up.
Yeah.
Shut the front door. You don't say. So it could be anything, really.
Okay.
Yeah. I just love that.
That could be like that. And also, so talking about the story a little bit, what's the vibe like? Is it silly? Not silly, probably not.
I always say it's fluffy.
Okay.
I love fluffy books. That's why I say my suggestions are not for everyone. I'm really good at suggesting gay fluffy fiction to people. I'm not a big angst fan. There's a lot of angst in the world.
Yeah.
If I wanted that, I would turn the news on. I don't.
Same.
So the vibe is very fluffy. It's fun and it's funny. And even though they're dealing with this really serious problem, and as the books go on, Simon is dealing with these really serious issues of trauma and coming out and things like that. It's just fluffy. It's lovely.
Heartwarming.
Very
kind of
heartwarming.
Thing.
A big gay blanket.
Yeah. So this is like your genre. So you read a lot of stuff like this?
I read a lot of fluffy gay fiction.
Okay.
Yeah, I have another suggestion if people love that genre.
Yeah.
There's an author named T.J. Klune, and yes, he writes A House in the Cerulean Sea. I would suggest that one first. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
But then he also writes Under the Whispering Door and The Lives of Puppets, or In the Lives of Puppets, and he writes very sweet gay fiction. And I think that a lot of people, especially people who consume TV and film a lot, will understand it's not common for gays to get a happy ending in media. And that's a trope of, oh, why can't they just let us be? Why can't they let us end up with who we love and that kind of thing? I prefer books that are going to be fluffy and happy.
Have a happy ending.
Yeah. And then those two are magical. I also read just realistic fiction that has a gay component. I love Casey McQuiston, who wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And she has another one. I love Red, White, and Royal Blue. I would recommend that to anyone. But if you are on more of the lady-centric side, there's one called One Last Stop.
Okay.
And it is about a girl who meets another woman on the subway. And she's from the 70s, but she's trapped there on the subway. So it's very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you read Legends and Lattes?
I haven't.
That one is set in a magical world. If you're interested in, like, sapphic love,
Always.
set in a magical world, Legends and Lattes, it's about an orc.
Okay.
And I think,
I feel like I can picture this cover.
Yes. So the cover is, hang on, I've got it here.
Yeah. I have seen that cover all over Bookstagram.
Yes. So the orc is a barista.
Love that. Good for her.
Classic. And she hires a succubus, Tandri, as her workmate.
Succubus. You don't hear that word a lot.
No.
I love that vibe.
A good heart of gold succubus.
Oh,
Tale
incredible.
as old as time.
Oh my! I'm going to have to check that out because that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, and it's also heartwarming, and there are some mean characters in it.
Of course, as there are in all plot-filled books, but yeah, you know what it is? I think it's that when you read a book like that and like this, you feel safe. You don't think, at least you hope, that the author's not going to try and get you.
Yeah.
And just turn around and stab your heart. And so I like books where I feel safe.
Okay, yeah. Not a George R. Martin fan.
Sure not. My wife is reading Game of Thrones right now.
Really?
For the first time. She watched all the shows.
Okay.
She just finished book 1. She loves it. She loves it. And she said, you could read it. You'd be into it. I said, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
It is. He will take somebody you love and just kill them in the worst possible way. Not for you.
Not for me.
Let's see what I've got. Let's talk about Rainbow
Rowell?
Rowell. I used Rowell, Southern voice.
Yeah.
It's Rainbow Rowell.
Rowell.
Okay. Yeah.
Rainbow Rowell. Yeah, she is an American author. She's from Nebraska, and Fangirl is set in Nebraska. And she likes to pay that homage. She was originally, I think, started out as a journalist, and then her first novel was Attachments, I believe, which was published in, I think, 2011. And then she's most well known, I think, for Eleanor and Park, which came out in 2012, and then Fangirl came out in 2013.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
So I remember I was big on Tumblr at the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, who wasn't?
Who wasn't?
Tumblarians, shout out to you. That was Tumblr librarians smashed together and made some of my oldest
best friends.
Yeah, besties.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember when Eleanor and Park came out, and it was huge. And then, she's just grown it from there.
Yeah, I think that in addition to Eleanor and Park, I think that Fangirl and the Carry On series has a really strong sort of cult following.
Yeah.
And if I had to guess, I think it would be because it came in that vacuum of J.K. Rowling post.
Yeah. When did J.K. Rowling start? Because she didn't start saying stuff until
I can remember talking about it with people towards the end of the 2010s. Probably
that sounds about right.
Probably around 2016, 2017. Because I can remember when Alan Rickman died, who played Snape. I cried. That was the only celebrity I ever cried for when he died.
Yeah.
So I know that I was still deeply invested in it then. And that was, I think, around 2016. And I think she really started to go in on it around then. And she has not taken her foot off the gas since.
Yeah, I think that's the crazy thing to me a little bit with it. Because when it first started coming out, I thought maybe she just needs to be calling in.
Maybe she just needs to be educated.
Yeah, or educated. Yeah. Maybe there's some ignorance there, and it's just been, no, I believe this, and I believe 10 other things that are much worse. And and at that point, I'll allow anybody a mistake if they come back and say, you know what, I got it wrong.
Or you know what, I'll allow anybody a mistake if they just be quiet. But she's writing books and blog posts about it and dedicating her life to just hating on people.
Yeah.
It's sad.
So, I'm sorry about it all. But I did want to bring up the title of the book. Yeah. Because I read it, so it's Carry On. So when I first read it, all I could think is Carry On, the fun song.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I thought it was. But then I saw the second book is...
It's actually the
Kansas...
On my waywards. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the third one is Anyway the Wind Blows, which is just a different song, but of that same genre and generation.
Is it Kansas? Kansas sings Carry On.
And then Anyway the Wind Blows is Queen song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
So it could be both songs because he says Carry On in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Does he?
Yeah.
Wow. We're like that gif of that woman with math in front of her. I love the references to it. And Carry On, actually, so the title of the novel, Carry On, was the title of Kath's fan fiction in Fangirl. So the books didn't have the title Carry On. They had Simon Snow in the World of Mages, Simon Snow and the 5 Hairs, Simon Snow and the 7 Swords, or whatever. And so she was writing a fan fiction called Carry On, which her fans, who read religiously on the website that she published to, they called it the definitive 8th year fic. So in Fangirl, the 8th book of the Simon Snow series has not come out yet.
Oh.
It's about to come out, and the series is about to end. And Kath is determined to finish this fic because so many people have rallied around it. And to them, this is the true story. This is really what was supposed to happen. Baz and Simon were supposed to end up together. And Carry On was the fic in the book, and Rainbow Rowell has said, I'm not writing the fan fiction. I took that story and I made it my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, it's like very meta.
Yes. Yeah.
Very, very meta.
I love that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, so thinking a little bit about who would you recommend this story to? I guess we already talked about fluffy.
Yes, if you like fluffy fiction, if you like magical gay fiction, I would also recommend it for people who maybe have not read in a while. And I know a lot of adults can relate to the idea of they devoured Harry Potter when they were younger and then have not really been a reader since. This is a great book to get you back into reading because it is light and easy to understand, but has those sort of magical things that you probably fell in love with Harry Potter. I would recommend it for... I made my wife read Fangirl, actually, last year.
Okay. What'd she think?
She really liked it. She is not... We do not line up on our book tastes. She's reading Game of Thrones and really enjoying it.
Yeah.
But she also likes historical fiction. She really likes nonfiction and memoirs and biographies. But she read Fangirl and she liked it. She thought it was really cute. If you are a magical gay reader and you have a spouse or a partner or a friend who likes a different genre, but you want to give them something to get them into the world, I would also recommend it to them.
Has she read Carry On?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. She is...
This is her calling. She's going to be listening to this.
Yes, she will be. And honestly, this is the long con. I'm just trying to get Marissa to read it.
There. Marissa, this episode is literally...
all for you, girl.
All for you.
No, I think she will read it eventually, and I think that she'll like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I was telling you this before we started recording. I was telling a coworker about this today, and it was like a spin around in her chair moment. She's also gay, and she was like... That's one of my favorite stories of all time.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'll have to meet her because...
Yeah. She's great.
She sounds great, and not many people just in my... I don't know if it's my age group or what, but I just feel like people haven't really heard of it. It does have a cult following online, but this is the first time I think in person where someone has been like, yes, I love that series.
Yeah.
I've had people who have read it because I suggested it on Instagram, but that's so cool to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was super into it. Is there anything from the story that we haven't touched on that you were really hoping we get to?
We honestly didn't really talk about the Baz and Simon relationship at all.
Let's dive in.
And that's the best part. That's why people are obsessed with it. Because although it is a magical adventure story, the draw and the main component is an enemies to lovers trope.
Yeah.
And I love that trope.
Is it a will they or won't they situation?
A bit in the first one. And so what's interesting is almost half of the first book, Baz is not present. I won't say where he is, but he is...
Just have to read it.
You'll just have to read it. But he has not shown up for his 8th year at Watford. And Simon is out of his mind with... It's worry, but he thinks Baz must be scheming. Baz is plotting something. And Penny, his best friend, is very much like, Simon, can you just chill? Who cares where he is? You hate him.
Yeah.
And Simon is just going out of his mind. So there's half the book where they're not together. And then Baz comes in. And Rainbow Rowell writes from multiple characters' perspectives, and she designates that in the chapters. It'll be a Baz chapter or a Simon chapter. And reading from Baz's perspective is the best. When you get to his part and he sees Simon in the dining hall for the first time, just makes my heart warm because he's just so in love with him.
Aww.
I know, it's so sweet. And so they are enemies. They come from very different backgrounds. Baz comes from an old magic family who is essentially warring with the head of Watford, who's known as the Mage. And Simon is the Mage's pawn. He's sort of the mage sort of sponsored him when he came into the world of magicians so that he could come to Watford because he didn't have a family. And so he's his de facto adopted father in the beginning. And because of that, Baz has been told by his family his whole life, Simon is the enemy. Simon is going directly against what we as an old magic family want in this world. And they try to come together to defeat this insidious humdrum. But Baz is doing it because he's in love with Simon. And he just will do anything to get close to him. And there's really bittersweet moments where he just talks about, I just thought that this was all I was going to get. I thought that if I was going to get anything, it was just going to be you hating me and us fighting and even you punching me. That was enough at that time. I loved you so much that I would have taken that. And that's just, that's even though it's a silly magic book, that's such a universal feeling for especially young adults and their first love and especially queer young adults where, you fall in love with someone that you don't think is gay.
Yeah.
And you just resign yourself to, this will just be my secret forever. It's very sweet. And Rainbow Rowell does a great job of, it's not syrupy sweet. They go through a lot of realistic challenges, especially in the third book. Yeah, I don't read angsty books. Don't worry. You're safe to read it.
Good. Yeah, that is definitely beautiful, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that happened and
Yeah.
that worked out. Everything worked out too.
Yeah.
I want to take some time here for you to talk about you and Marissa's, what y'all work on together.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So my wife and I, her name is Marissa. She and I have a bookstagram. It is called Lesbe Readers.
Very cute.
LESBE Readers. And we started it when we lived in South Carolina, and we've continued it here. And it's just a place for us to post the books that we've read, as well as content about gay books and things like that. Someone asked me, do you only do gay books? And I said, if I read it, it's a gay book. Because we span the gamut with what we read, especially Marissa. She's reading, I'll be like, what's her favorite book recently? And it'll be a Ken Follett book. And I'm like, okay. She loves Ken Follett.
Yes.
She loves Ken Follett, but he's an old white man.
He is, but yeah.
But she loves it. So
Pillars of the Earth was like...
Yes. She loves Pillars of the Earth.
Killed me.
Yes. So when people ask, is it all gay stuff? I just say, yeah. We put a gay spin on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I would love for people to follow us there. It's just a fun place for us to share our thoughts on books and connect with people on Bookstagram. And we love reading. So,
yeah. It's so cool to connect with you too. We're both here in Richmond.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're practically neighbors.
We are. Yeah.
Literally under 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a very cool area of town. So thank you so much for being with me tonight and sharing the stories with me. I think it's so important and so fun and getting other people to read it.
Thank you. I had so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay! Okay. And we hit... Thank you for spending some time with me and my guest for an episode of Drinks in the Library. For more information about the show, you can find us on Instagram at Drinks in the Library, on the World Wide Web, drinksinthelibrary.com, or shoot me an email at drinkspod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers.